So we're going to start working with using the quadratic formula to solve equations. Now there's a whole bunch of different ways to solve quadratic equations. You know, we can complete the square, we can try to factor things out, but when all of those do not work, or when you're having a difficult time, you can always go back to the quadratic equation. All right, and that basically looks like this. It looks terrible, but it's not that bad. X, whatever your answer may be, whatever it equals, negative b, and these a, b's, and c's that you see here are from, let me write it down here so you get an idea. A x squared, right? B, let me put this here, x plus, and this is your C right here, okay? So that's where it's coming from. I'm going to put this equal to 0, which you have seen quite a few. A is the coefficient in front of the x squared, B is the coefficient in front of the second term, the x to the 1 power, and C is just the number that you have there, the constant. Okay, so we're going to have to, the very first thing you're going to have to do is when you've exhausted or you're not sure how to approach it, you can always fall back to the quadratic equation, right? So we're going to have to label everything. We put them, if it's not all on one side of the equal sign, we move everything together, putting it in standard form, highest power, second highest, and then just the constant. Okay, so we're going to write down A, B, and C. And we do that so we don't mess up. Okay, so my A, I'm going to leave as red. And there's no number here, so I'm going to put a 1. That's the only number that will not change what x squared is, so we're going to put it as 1. My B is negative 2. And my C is 2. Okay, so, all right, cool. From here, now we're going to put it into this equation. All right, we're going to start. Here we go. X equals negative. What's my B? Well, it's negative 2. No big deal. I'm going to put it in parentheses, negative 2. Because even if this says negative, we still write it exactly the way it is, negative 2. Okay? Plus or minus the square root. What's my B? Negative 2 squared minus 4. Everything in black stays the same, by the way. 4, my A is 1. 1. 4, AC, and times 2. Let me put this a little bit longer. All over 2 times A. There's my A. Okay, cool. We're going to figure this out. Don't worry. We'll make it. Now, but the first thing I'm going to do is I want to look at this piece right in here before I keep going. And I want to see what I get. I'm going to figure out what's inside that radical. So I'm going to put this right underneath here. And I'm going to rewrite it. Let me put it in a box, in a yellow box. I'm going to make it no end because sometimes I write big and I don't want to mess it up. All right, so let's see what this has a special name. This is called the discriminant. It's everything in the quadratic equation that's in here inside the square root. All right, so we're going to figure out the discriminant. We're not going to take the square root of it, just what is inside of here. And then from there, we'll keep going. Okay, so negative 2 squared. That is negative 2 times negative 2 minus. Now I'm going to go ahead and multiply these three. 4 times 1 times 2. Okay, minus, I wrote it down. 4 times 1, 4. Times 2, 8. Okay. What's negative 2 times negative 2? 4 minus 8. And what's our answer? Negative 4. I have $4. I owe 8. I use my $4 to get me to the answer. And I use my $4 to pay my $8 debt, and I have still a $4 debt. So my answer is a -4. Okay? Very good. So that is a -4. Okay? Whenever the discriminant, here's the rule for the discriminant. And this is why we try to figure it out first. And you have to be really careful with this kind of stuff. So when my discriminant, this part here, b squared minus 4ac, when I plug in the numbers for a, b, and c, okay, if I happen to get a number that's bigger, greater than 0, for sure there are 2 solutions, and I keep going. Now, if I get a number that's smaller than 0, like a negative number, -1, -2, there is no solution. And if I get a number that's equal to 0, there's only one solution. So right here, we got a -4. That does not fall under larger than 0. It is smaller than 0, less than 0. There is no solution for this. Now, I'm going to keep going with this so you can see. But right here, okay, x equals, and now I'm going to write -2. I expect there to be no solution, and I'm going to show you why there isn't one. And then we'll do another example. Okay, -4, that's the answer that we got, all over 2. Okay, so -2 would be 2 square root of -4, x equals. These cancel out. And by the way, this is plus or minus. So we got x is equal to plus or minus the square root of -4. Now, if you use your calculator and you try to take the square root of a negative number, it's going to show you error. That's because what 2 numbers can I multiply that are the same number that will give me a negative answer? We can try -2 times -2. If we do that, guess what happens when we multiply them? We get +4. We don't get -4, right? And we can try, well, if we multiply 2 times -2, then yeah, we get -4, but they're not the same number. So this has no answer. There's no plus or minus square root of -4. So whenever the discriminant is smaller than 0, that's what happens in there. So you can't. This has no answer. Usually, if it's either bigger than 0 or 1, this will let you keep going down and you'll get a number. Whether it's a whole number or an integer, whatever it may be, but it will be a number. Okay? So that is example number 1. So we're going to go and move ahead to another example. Okay, the first thing you do, if you are not sure what to do, well, we are going to find my A, my B, and my C. And we're going to first look at that discriminant. So here's my A, my B, my C. Now my A we're using, it's 1. How easy is that? 1. B is my blue number, right? 4. And C is 1. I'm going to write the entire quadratic equation because the way I learned it and memorized it is I just kept writing it over and over in problems. I highly recommend that you do that. Because when you take your math classes in upper level math, they're not going to give you the formula. You have to sort of memorize this. So I highly recommend that by you practicing it, right, that, -b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so x equals, what's my -b? All right, -4 plus or minus square root b squared 4 squared minus 4. It's my a, 1 and 1 all over 2, what's my A? 1. All right, we're cool. Now let's look at the discriminant. Again, we are going to look at this piece in here. Okay, if it's smaller than 0, no solution. If it's larger than 0, 2 solutions. And if it's equal to 1, 1 solution. Okay, so let's do this side. I'm going to do that piece. I'm going to put a little yellow box, which I will put no end to it because I tend to have issues with that. All right. So 4 squared minus 4. You can see where everything is coming from. Okay. 4 squared is 16. 4 times 1 is 4 times 1 is 4. 16 take away 4 is 12. That is 12 is larger than 0. There are 2 solutions. So we move forward. Okay? Here we go. X equals negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 12 divided by 2. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and do this. All right. We're going to do now negative 4. This is the plus side, plus the square root of 2 over 2. That's one solution. And my negative solution, meaning I'm going to use the subtraction, negative 4 minus the square root of 2 over 2. Those are my 2 solutions. Now, if we were to take the square root of 2, we would get a decimal. And then we would subtract that from 4. We would add to negative 4. We would subtract it from negative 4 here. And we would divide it by 2, and we're going to get some type of decimal. But we can just leave it like this for now. But you can see it works. It gives you 2 solutions. And let me close this yellow box so I don't get anybody yelling at me. Anyway, so that's how you use this formula. In another video, I'm going to show you how we actually get to the formula. But right now, I just want to give you some practice using the quadratic equation. All right, and this works. If you're stumped on something and you're supposed to find what x is, the solutions for x in a quadratic equation, this works every single time. Now, obviously, it takes a while, and if the numbers are bigger or smaller, it's going to make it a little bit more complicated, but it works every single time. Let's do another example. Okay, and here we have something interesting. They're not on the same side, but we could still do this. Okay, all we got to do is we have to move it so it's on the same side. Now here we have a positive exponent in front of the x squared. I'm going to go ahead and put it all together in one side. I want it to look like ax squared plus bx plus c. That's my goal, right? I want it to look like that. So I can move this over here, or I'm just going to go ahead and move everything to the left side. One, visually, we're used to seeing that. We tend to make less mistakes when we do that, so we're going to go ahead and do it this way. I'm going to subtract negative 8x, negative 8x. That gives me 2x squared minus 8x equals negative 7. And from there, I'm going to subtract 7 on both sides. 2x squared minus 8x minus 7 equals 0. I am ready to go. This is in standard form. Ready to do that. Okay, so my A is 2. My B is negative 8. And my C, let me put this, A is 2. My B is negative 8. And my C is negative 7. Now, let's put it into the quadratic equation. I'm going to write it again. Negative B. X equals, it's not a star, it's an X. X equals negative B plus or minus B squared minus 4AC. This is the discriminant. This is going to tell you the hint how many solutions it has. All over 2A. So let's work with this discriminant first. Okay, but anyway, we're going to solve that, but let's put them all where they need to go first. Sorry about that. Okay, negative B. So it's, let me do this. I keep switching. X equals negative. What's my B? Negative 8. Plus or minus. B squared. Negative 8 squared. Minus 4. What's my A? 2. And my C is negative 7. Okay. Oops, that should be in black. My bad. All right. All over 2 times A, which is in red. 2 times 2. Let me make sure I got that right. 2, negative 8, negative 7. Negative B squared plus or minus the square root of negative 8 squared minus 4A to C, negative 7, all over 2A. Okay, let's get this discriminant going. Let's get this party started. Okay, let me put a box right underneath here. That discriminant is negative 8 squared is negative 8 times negative 8 minus, well, let's do 4 times 2. What's 4 times 2? 8 times negative 7. Okay, let's see what happens. So, negative 8 times negative 8, 64. Minus 8 times negative 7 is going to give us, I'm going to do this in red, well, 8 times 7 is 56, so it would give me negative 56. What do we get here? Let's see. A negative minus a negative. That's going to make that positive. So I'm going to put this all in black. 64 plus 56. And when I add these two, right, I get 120. 120 is clearly bigger than 0. So this has 2 solutions. Mark them. 2 solutions. Cool. Okay. Here we go. Let's put it in here. We come back to here. X equals minus 8. Right here. This piece here. That will give me 8 plus or minus square root of 120 all over 4. Okay, so here we go. X equals the positive side. 8 plus square root of 120. Square root of 120 is not a perfect square. We would get some type of decimal over 4, which I can actually reduce this, which I will in a second. And then the negative side. Okay. 8, x equals 8 minus the square root of 120 divided by 4. Now let's look at square root of 120. So this is basically your 2 solutions, but we're going to simplify that square root of 120. Let's make a factor tree. Let's see if we can take anything out. What times what is 120? I look at my 0 and I'm lazy and I say 12 times 10. I'm going to break this down more because I haven't found anything common. 2 times 5, give me 10. And this is 2 times 6. Let's keep going. 2 times 3, 2 times 5. Okay, I have a pair of 2's. And I have 2 times 3 times 5. There's nothing else I can pull out of there. I have a pair of 2's. I'm going to write this as 8 plus 2. What's left over if I take out the pair of 2's? 6 times 5, right? 15 times 2, or 6 times 5, which is 30, over 8. And I'll get the same thing over here, but instead of plus, it'll be 8 minus 2, that's my pair of 2's, square root of 30 divided by 4. Now, why did I take that out? Because if I have an even number, an even number, an even number, even here, right? I can actually reduce it by, what's my lowest number? 2, right? If I take out a 2, here I'm left with 4. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 2 times 1, square root of 30, over 2. And then these cancel out. I'm sorry, 2 times 2. And I'm left with 4 plus the square root of 30 over 2. This is a reduced thing. And this, you know, if you're right here, you know, you got it. But this is perfect. It may not look perfect because of my handwriting, but it's perfect. Okay. So here we would do the same thing. I put that x. X equals, if we take out a 2, because they're all even numbers, this would leave me with 4. 2 times 4 is 8, minus 2 times 1 is 2, square root of 30, and then, right, and then this would give me 2, because 2 times 2 is 4. X equals 4 minus square root of 30 over 2. All right, and there you go. So those are the two answers. This works fine. This is just not in lowest terms. And if you are to factor out a 2 from here because you have all even numbers, you're left with this, this, and this. Okay, but this is a super complicated number. For the ones that you practice, it's not going to get that bad. What do you really want to worry about is the discriminant. That's going to tell you the hint. One solution, no solutions, or two solutions. So you figure that out first. You put it into here and you find your solution. You put your A, your B, your C, everywhere it goes, and you got 2 plus and minus because it has two solutions, right? Okay, well, I hope that helps. Once you practice this, you'll be fine. This one was kind of a difficult question, but you'll get there. And good luck.